I'm a man of leisure. Our first festival appointment is today at 8 in beautiful downtown Pellston, or in a farm. We moved this pillow. And so I've got a full complement of employees here today, and it's awesome. This is like the first nice day where I was not like checking in cars or working out there. I am enjoying my backyard. Yes, the road is there, but it's not busy. The pond, fern gardens, wildflower gardens, listening to the birds chirping away. I'm not even going to mow the lawn today. This is goof off day. This is time to work on bows. And so let us take this journey into the world of primitive archery, one bow at a time. I done straightened out through the miracle of steaming this Gullwing, this red ellum, this Ulmus rubra Gullwing bow. And so this is straight, this is nice. It was as if it came from a tree that wasn't elm. I last night leveled it. This limb was, so I steamed it for a long time, longer than I had to, 20 minutes. It just sat there. And in the steam. And as a little heads up, I've steamed the handle. I don't want it to like steam out. Steam these, I don't want it to steam out. So when this is over the kettle, you sure can wrap all the parts that you've previously steamed. Watch my tripping of words. Drunk on coffee. So the steam won't hit it, so there's not going to be anything affecting it. So I always wrap all the parts, even though the steam isn't hitting it. Just as a matter of principle, I'm just going to wrap those parts so the steam won't hit them and it won't relax. And everything worked out to plan. Even better, this was one wiggly, snaky stave that even had this nasty side bend that threw the string out of alignment. Straighten the handles, straighten the gink here, shaped it nicely. We're ready to go. The only thing is I am looking at this, and if it wasn't a question of weight, because again, this needs to be a self bow before it's elk sinew back, so Newell's wife can enjoy using it too. If that wasn't the case, that I need to even reduce it in weight down to about 35 pounds, I'm guessing 30, 35, but fear not, when it's backed with sinew, the weight will go up. If draw weight wasn't a concern, I would take one of my handy dandy, I love forms, everything has to be 90 degrees. You know, this is perfect 90 degrees to the side, my recurving wrenches. And I like to put pressure on things more and more as I'm steaming it, and that will lessen the risk of things shattering than like steaming it and then walking over. It's cooling and then putting in a jig and fiddling it around. Another thing that I haven't done, but you could make big rubber bands out of inner tubes and preload this thing, so as it relaxes it will tighten up on its own. That would be a beautiful method. You could enjoy the peaceful feeling of knowing that there's a certain amount of force you can place upon this before you shatter this. And so as it relaxes, you adjust your inner tube rubber band so it's applying that force. It'll relax upon its own, and so your chances of damaging this are lessened. Now of course you want to make sure that you're not throwing it out of alignment, but you can certainly then, before it cools all the way, twist it fore and aft, any way that's necessary to make sure that the recurve is in alignment. Would I suggest this for a self bow over sinew? If you sinew back it and you have a recurve in there, you're golden. It's going to support it. If it is a self bow and it is recurved, depends on what kind of wood you're using. Some woods will just relax and go back to their position, original position. Some woods are resistant, and you can have a self bow that's a recurve without going to the added fun of, when you're shaping it, thickening it through there so it doesn't want to rebound back to its original position. Woods such as oak or ash or elm or all these other woods have varying degrees of maintaining the bend after they're steamed. Some woods are miserable. That's one reason why I don't like make self bow recurves out of some woods. is because you can steam them, you can be as gently and patient as possible, and the recurve disappears. And the worst thing is if it disappears at different lengths, you got a nice recurve here and not so much here. But that is that. On to the next subject. I need to reduce the weight. And I was thinking further. It's a short bow, doesn't bend through the handle, so there's not much bending taking place here. So to get a 30-pound, 35-pound self bow that's this short, it either has to be very thin, which I don't want to go past that ledge of usefulness. If I was to thin this to a certain point, then if I pass that boundary, it's going to be a miserable bow. It'll just like bend and stay that way. It has to have a certain thickness. So I could narrow it, excuse me, but I don't want to do that because it would look funny. It has to maintain proportionality with like the actual bows. So I could scribe it along here, scribe a parallel band along here, and bevel it, reduce the belly. But even though this was worked down to one growth ring in the heartwood, this is elm, interlocking grain. I could violate the rings and it would still be good, especially in a lighter weight bow. So I am going to round this. I need to remove wood, but not remove this, and not remove this. At the crown, although I can round it. So I'm going to do that. It's not going to have that beautiful one growth ring thing through here. It'll be parallel like a board bow, but since it's going to be sinew back eventually, I'm assuming that he's going to do that, you won't notice. So in the meantime, while his wife is playing with this bow, shooting arrows through the air, I think I'm going to round this. Then it would still look like an authentic bow made from a small diameter stave. However, it would be lighter. So that's enough of that. On the P-diddle bows, I have two of them. The rawhide worked out nicely. It didn't creep from the winding. It didn't like... When you use hide glue, it's less apt to do that than Tite Bond. When you glue rawhide on with Tite Bond, it's slippery for a long time till it sets up. But you soak your rawhide in gluey imbued water, so you're putting glue into the rawhide. You size your bow correctly. You take... I'll soak my strips in a coffee mug. Stick them down there. Then after they've loosened up, I will roll them up tightly individually, two rolls, put them in a Ziploc bag and just let them sit there. I don't know, it seems to work out. But I can have this bow with the sizing almost dry and then pull out those strips, and when you wrap them tightly individually, it wrings out some of the water. You don't need to wipe them off with a paper towel or anything. Lay them on that bow, they're stuck. They are not shifting. It makes wrapping the gauze a lot easier because you don't need to pay attention to having perfect tension through there. You can if you want. I do. Lay them on there, let them sit, then peel them up halfway. One strip, two strip. Halfway, smear some more glue on there, lay it down, peel this one up, rub it, glue on the bare wood, slap it back down, do repeat and rinse and repeat. Wait a while. You can wait half an hour or so, let it set up a little bit, and then you can go to town wrapping it. Advantage of using gauze over ace bandage is that when you have the wrapping on there, you can actually feel, because gauze is thinner than ace bandage, whether or not your edge has slid. You can, oh no, I feel it. It's the edge is halfway in the bow, another is over the edge. Bad sign. To some degree, you don't need to unwrap it. All you do is, using your palm, slide it back into position through the gauze. You don't need to unwrap it and rewrap it. But with hide glue, it generally doesn't happen because it sticks down nicely. The other advantage, you take your gauze off, it doesn't stick to the bow, you don't have fibers gluing to it, you don't have to cut it out with scissors. It just peels off nicely, roll it up neatly, and use it over and over and over and over again. And there's a lot less fuss because you do not need to sand ripped fibers off the edge of your bow. I'm a man of leisure, so that is the tip. That, my friends in bowland, is backstrap sinew, not leg tendon, not Achilles tendon sinew. And I like that for wrapping tips because, see that? It's got texture. It has colored bands because you comb that. You take your back strap and you take a nice sharp tabletop and you run it over there, and then you can just peel the sheathing off and it breaks it into individual fibers more or less. You're not pounding it in the fluffiness. And so you do approach it with a different angle. I'll take my glue that's in a double boiler. It's not boiling, but you know, you have water in a pan and then your glue pot so you don't overheat it. And I'll just take a bunch of tendons, backstrap tendons, the fibers, throw them in there and just let them sit for 20 minutes. It's not like fluffy leg tendon where you put it in your glue pot, count one Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 chimpanzee, all the way up to 20. I do that. Every bundle when I'm laying it down, I count to 20. But the back strap, because it hasn't been pounded, it's a little stiffer, you do need to just let it soak in there. Then I wrap it. It depends on how it behaves. I did not use my trick. Normally when I'm wrapping, doing sinew wrapping, whether or not it's sinew back bow or rawhide, I will finish it and then I'll cut strips, like 1-inch wide strips, whatever, 1 1/4 inch of garbage bag, and then wrap them over there so it dries slowly. You want that to melt into the surface, melt into the sinew if it's a sinew back bow and you're doing wrappings. You know, melt into the glue sizing that you have rubbed in here. You want a good bond. Why? Why do I not, John? Why don't you do your wraps? You've sinew back a bow. This is rawhide, but pretend it's sinew for this argument. Why don't you put your wrappings on when you back it? Well, the backing shrinks, and if you have a full layer side to side, a second full layer side to side, and then a third layer that just runs down maybe 50% of the area so it humps, so you crown it, that will shrink. And if you put your wrappings, your final wrappings on at that point, that backing could shrink down and you'll have gaps and it won't bond. The wrappings won't bond well. If I was sinew backing this, I would have that sinew on the back and I would wrap it tightly. At least, I wrap the whole thing so I don't sand it. It makes a nice compressed surface because the gauze is like a rubber band. Shrinks it down, you don't have gaps, and it's better for painting. I would at least wrap the inside curve so when it shrinks it doesn't pull out. You need to support that until it's dried, until it's shrunk down. If you recurve it, joink, you have an inside curve here too. You have to support it. You could do thin, not full coverage. You could do some temporary sinew wraps to hold it down, or just ace bandage or gauze. I always prefer gauze. And again, when sinew backing, it does not stick. It pulls up cleanly. Okay, Aaron. Impossibly Red Dragon. I really like it. You know, I don't get a lot of viewership, but I guess I'm a boutique channel because, believe it or not, there are actual bow makers that I have great respect for that tune into my videos for some reason. I tend to yap a lot, and so it's not necessarily like, here I'm working and people are entertained just by the working. Hopefully people are attracted because they see some substance to it, and so they will learn. They're not here necessarily to be entertained, you know, by watching somebody else work, but maybe glean some knowledge from it that might help them. And there was a question raised regarding the bellies and the tools that produce these bellies. And it had to do with concaveness through the belly, not just perfectly flat or doing other things, but concave belly. And I don't have an answer for that. I do not have one answer, because we have all seen round bellies, even on bows that aren't you. If they were below a certain draw weight, you know, every bow has its particular engineering spectrum of, you know, factors. If it's below a certain weight, you can round the belly on almost any bow. You'll have an issue if you have a whitewood, you know, elm or ash or maple or something like that. They all have their limits to how much you can push the envelope as far as rounding. And I suppose that having a concave surface is similar to that. You have a raised bed of sorts, and there will be concentrated bands, if it's not perfectly flat, of compression stress. Stress is causing, a potential issue or movement in something. Strain is when it lets loose. And so depending on the weight of it, you can get away with this. Now, I would have to have a microscope and actually look at this. This is only my personal opinion. And if I am dead wrong, I'm fine with that. I'm willing to look the fool if somebody responds with actual information, and then I have done my job. I have inspired an answer. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It happens. I believe, I'm prefacing it this, that when you have a bow and you get string follow, that means that there's some damage to the cells in that wood. There's tension, there's compression. And in many ways, I think that bows break because of tensional failure. They get string follow, mostly through compression. And so that's why I've gone to really loving rounded bags, because it intensifies the forces within the bow. And as you intensify forces, you get more efficiency. But I do believe that they are more prone to failure, in that, not catastrophic failure, but string follow in a way, because they compress easier than they stretch apart. I might be wrong, but that's my feeling. And that's why, Aaron, I can't answer your question fully, because I don't monkey around with the bellies. I maintain perfectly flat bellies to fight compression issues. But I would believe, because I've seen pictures of bows and Boyer's Bibles and other areas, some of them would have sharp spines down the belly. Those obviously are not pushing the envelope in draw weight. You're a strong dude, so I'm sure that you make heavyweight bows. I wouldn't suggest that. I would always suggest as flat as possible. If you're a big brawny dude that sprung out of Texas, and can draw 80-pound bows, you really have to be careful with the belly portion of it. There's probably some area, if you use hickory. Hickory is a strong ass wood. Oh, pardon me. You can monkey around with the profile of the top, the cross section of the top, but I wouldn't monkey around so much with the belly. If you had, say, a tool that wasn't perfectly straight, follow it up with a sanding block or something, But I would always suggest a very flat belly, a very flat belly. That is it for bows. This is lovely. I like this. And I'm looking at all these cool plants along here. Roberto Zevnik, of my acquaintance. Actually, for those of you who are watching this, Rob is the one that got me into playing the fiddle in the first place. I didn't start by being a violin student in middle school or high school. I attempted mandolin, but Rob was, and still is, a really great musician. Banjo, guitar, everything he touches. Fortunately, I've got the lead in violin because I've got more violin time. But yes, this is an electrified instrument. And this is great in many ways. Isn't this cool? Because of the different sounds it makes. It can sound like a violin, and when I was playing it, I had the gain up a little bit. And you can also do interesting effects. Chorus, once I master pedals. But another thing is, I just dragged this thing out of its box. I don't have a case for it yet. It's 80 degrees out here. It came from a house that was 65 degrees. And I am darn sure that the humidity is different between that and this. I would never do that with my good violin. My acoustic violin that's put together with hide glue and is more delicate. But basically this is like a guitar neck. It has maple, mahogany, maple, mahogany, maple laminations. Definitely not hide glue. I don't know what this is, if it's a really fine plywood or what's going on with that body, but I don't need to worry about it. Forget playing a cheap violin, in a public venue. I've got this electric jobby, and I'm not scared to bring it out. This is going to be my workhorse. Not playing it tonight because I'm unfamiliar with it, and if you've ever played with a group that's electrified, you realize that when you approach the song, you got a solo, and all of a sudden, like the Pink Floyd Time, I have to hit that hard, and I have to hit it right. it helps to be able to hear yourself a little bit, and I can still hear the acoustic violin even over the din of all the electrified instruments. This is silent, and so where I start is a mystery. Hopefully there's going to be monitors that will give me some sound so I can back away from... Oh, I can. This isn't going to use a microphone. Wow. I'm going to have to know what I'm doing when I play this, instead of making stuff up as I go along. Okay there. Last night we did a practice. We ran through our entire set, all the songs, 16 of them, and that's the first time I ever saw the leader, the guitar player, get snappy with anyone. His stress level is up there, and I just kind of roll with the punches. Yeah, I know what you want. You want me to play the first 4 bars of the lead in time, and then the accordion player is going to take over the D section, the other 4 bars, and I got it. She was having some troubles, but her work is a lot more complex. She's got an accordion, she's got a keyboard, she's got a synthesizer, she's got three speakers for singing in. I wouldn't want that job. She's doing really well. She really is. Jan's doing a tremendous job, and better her than me, buddy. I just want to have a simple 4-string fretless instrument and a microphone. I can handle that. Forget all the settings for the synthesizer, the organ, being able to switch, get the mic. That's work. Everyone else has work. I'm just going there to have fun. That's all. Now bonus. I'm going to take you through here a little bit. A tour of my backyard, my place of leisure. I'll talk a little quieter because of sound. There's the pond. Whoops. Need to replace that. There's Myrtle the turtle and goldfish. Those are ferns. That down there is wild ginger that is flourishing. And it's not in the same family. It's not in the same universe as the tropical ginger. Hey, how's it going? An employee just got here.